Hello, welcome back. This video, we're going to talk about Microsoft Planner. Planner is an application in the Office 365 suite. It is a task management tool for teams. It's definitely team oriented, something that we'll point out many times, and you'll have to keep in mind as you use this tool. It is definitely oriented toward uh, team use rather than individual use. In a future video, I'll talk about Microsoft ToDo, which is more the individual focused task management tool. So we're going to start with Planner, talk about it, about how it helps you organize your tasks, get your team organized around particular tasks and efforts that they're working on. We're going to take a look at how it helps you to track the progress on those tasks and how it enables a team to collaborate around tasks rather than the traditional here you're assigned this task, go do it. This tool helps the team assist those who are assigned tasks as they move forward. So we're going to take a look at how do we create plans for Planner and how that relates to the product Microsoft Teams, more specifically how it relates to groups. Then we're going to work with a plan. A practical example that we'll walk through. That we will add some tasks, we'll do some organization, add some tasks, we'll assign things, we'll do a number of different things, and get a good feel for how the interface works and some of the things that we can do with Planner as a tool. And then we'll come back and we'll look at some of the ways that it summarizes and aggregates data and how it integrates with these other applications, specifically ToDo, the individual task management application. And we'll look at how it integrates with the Teams application so that after you've created a plan for a team, they don't have to constantly use a separate application. They can do it right inside of the Teams application, making everyone's life just a bit easier. So what we're looking at here is I've just logged into my Office 365 portal at portal.office.com. I logged in, did my multi-factor authentication and all that nifty stuff that you're supposed to do. And as you can see, as with all the other Microsoft applications in this suite, we have an icon on the home page that we can launch Planner with. If you're already in your Office 365, maybe you're in Outlook or you're working on a Word document and you want to get to Planner from there, you can always use the waffle menu, select all apps, and Planner is a little bit further down. So whichever way you get into the application, it does open up a web page that takes you to your Planner hub. It's the default view that you'll see when you open it up. We're gonna come back in a little bit and take a little bit closer look at the Planner hub and my tasks and some of the stuff on the left hand navigation bar. But for now, we're going to just start by diving in, and I'm going to create a new plan. This plan is for an Office 365 users group. I have a team called Office 365 users group. We're planning a micro summit, one of those 4 to 8 hour summits of information, and we're going to set up a plan around that micro summit and the work that we need to do to organize that micro summit. So we're going to start by clicking on New Plan. You see here we've got quite a few things, or not, actually I shouldn't say quite a few, it's only a handful of things that we have to set up to create a plan. The first thing to remember when you create a plan is that each plan is closely associated with a Microsoft Office 365 group. You cannot have a plan without a group. It's a required relationship. So if you create a plan and you do not designate a group, I'm about to show you how to designate a group, but let's say right now we don't designate a group. If I create a plan without the group, behind the scenes, Office 365 will create a group for you, create a brand new group. That could be an advantage. Maybe this is the first time I'm thinking about this team and the group, and now I'm going to create the plan first and then create the group. That's fine. But what I have to do after I've done that is I have to go in and add the members to the group and create a team and all the other things that go along with that. Whereas if I do the work inside of Microsoft Teams, I create a new team, I create a group, which then creates a group, and then I add members to that group. Uh, then my life is made a lot easier that way. I don't have to go do that additional administrative work later. So from my point of view, creating a plan without designating a group is really just kind of adding some extra overhead. Um, on the other hand, as you see here, we've got some privacy settings that do address public versus private on an individual group. And so maybe part of my intent when I'm creating my plan is I want a plan that's going to be very restrictive. Um, and so in doing so, I do want a new group and to work with that plan, and we're not going to use some of the other collaboration features. Possibility, public, anyone in my organization can see the plan. So that's a wide open plan. Um, haven't worked in many organizations where people would select that option, but in this case, we'll take it. So I'm going to name my plan just based on what we're going to do. It's a micro summit. I'm going to say that micro summit is going to be in December of this year. But rather than create a new group called Micro Summit, I'm going to add it to an existing group. And like I say, this is probably the most common scenario you're gonna work with because you probably will have already created a group within Microsoft Teams, and you're gonna add plans to that group, just as I'm doing here. So I have in Microsoft Teams a Office 365 users group, and so I'm gonna choose that group. And as you can see, all the privacy settings that were on that previous page have gone away because those privacy settings were set when I created the team, and the team had the same question whether I wanted to be a team that was public to my organization or private just the people I added to that group. And as you can see, it's a private group. I'm only adding certain people to this users group, and so we're gonna go ahead and hit create plan. And now we have a new plan. So once again, quickly go back. As you can see, if I create a plan without designating a group, I have to set the group information along with it. But if I designate a group, I don't have to. So now let's look at the planner interface, how to work with this plan and what it does. As I said earlier, it's a Kanban board style interface, but it also has a calendar-based interface as well. And we'll take a look at some of these other views after we've worked with this plan for a bit. Right now, we're going to focus on the Kanban board. Um, Kanban boards are organized into buckets. And what are a bucket? A bucket's really nothing more than just a collection of related tasks. And so you always get your first board is just general to do, kind of a generic task list. If you're ever read that book, Getting Things Done, this is kind of the inbox where you just dump things until you have time to organize them into their appropriate slots. But you can also, if you have a good idea of how you want to organize the tasks in this project, you can start right away. But this tends to be a fluid thing. As you work with your plan, you will probably create buckets, remove buckets. Um, a lot of people will use status uh, titles as buckets, like you'll say in progress or completed, and you'll have buckets that match your status, and then you can just drag things back and forth and have a quick view of where tasks are at. I would recommend against this, and as we look there, we'll look later on at some of our grouping and filtering options that already provide those views. So when we take a look at Planner and our way of organizing buckets, using statuses are probably not what you want to do. Status assigned to due dates, those sorts of things, This is more of a different kind of organization. So in this case, I'm going to talk about I'm doing a micro summit. So some of the things I want to do is I'm going to have tasks around speakers. I'm going to have tasks around my micro summit hosting. Um, so we'll call this speakers and scheduling. Um, if I can spell properly. Speakers scheduling, hosting. We'll have a bucket called marketing. Tasks around marketing this Microsoft. So I'm not going to go into a lot of. This is not going to be a fantastic plan for a micro summit here. We're just giving you some examples of how this works. And so you can see these are just general buckets that are going to hold the tasks related to these different items. Maybe you could call it sub-projects, whatnot. Um, But we're going to start here. I'm just going to create the plus button to start adding my task, and this is kind of the quick add way of doing it. And as you see here, when you do a quick add of a task, all you're really doing is you're adding a name of the task, you're setting a due date, you're assigning, and then you keep plowing through. The entire idea behind this interface is you're blasting through, you're brainstorming, you're tossing out your tasks as quickly as you can think through them, and then we're going to come back and we're going to add some details to each of these tasks. So at this point, I'm going to just create a task to identify 5 speakers for my micro summit. We're going to have a task for um, send, actually we're going to write up an email to to we'll just call it request speaker participation. Okay. So as you can see, just a couple of tasks there. Under hosting, I'll do setup um, hosting account for summit, and then marketing. We're just gonna plan Twitter posts. Okay, so here we go. I got a few tasks that I've created, tossed them up into the buckets, and you can see there's not a lot of detail here. And I did it just as a quick brainstorming session. I just typed the task in, and didn't even do some of the other components of setting the date or assigning at this point. At this point, I'm just getting the tasks out. But now, once the tasks are out there, I want to add more detail. I want to edit these tasks, and by clicking on a task, that's where I get to the detail task view. And as you can see here, there's a lot of things I can do. I can start assigning it to people. So I can assign this to me. I can change the buckets from here if I need to. Um, and as you see, I've got my status and priority I start to set. So we start to see, you know, your standard task management type activities. Your description field is great for adding more details. And so one of the things I really like about tasks in Microsoft Planner is tasks can be a little bit larger in scope because you have this checklist feature. And so in the checklist, I can get down to the nuts and bolts of the broader task and everything. Because a lot of times you don't want to have a million tasks, or we'll be able to work on it. Say we have 10 tasks to get this email campaign done. One approach that some people will use is create a task for each of those little steps. But Microsoft Planner gives you an out so that you don't have to have so many tasks on your Kanban board. The individual tasks can have many subtasks associated with them in your checklist. And so here I can have um, my write up my template, get the email addresses. Okay, so and I can have as many items in the checklist I want, and I can show that on the home of on the front of the card. So as I come back out here and look at the Kanban board, we can see now not only does it have the broad task, it's got the checklist in it too. And as I complete the items in the checklist, it'll show me how many are done versus not done. It helps me to track the progress of that task. So it's a really nice feature here. Attachments. Attachments in Planner are an interesting component. They work like attachments in almost every other Office 365 application. These files, any file that you attach here, is saved in the group's SharePoint site. So it's in your My Documents folder in the group SharePoint site. Uh, so while it may look like you have added a document to a task in Planner, that's not really where the documents at. So when we come back and take a look at SharePoint, your files, keep that in mind that as we add files to these tasks, they're really in SharePoint. And so you can see one of the options in the add attachment is SharePoint. So if you've already uploaded a document into your My Documents folder, you can just select it from here. Or if you want to pull from your local computer, then it's just a matter of just selecting it um, out of your document. So I'm gonna put up we're using an XMind form here. This was something that was from my forms demo. This is the kind of the outline for it. So we'll just use that as a sample document for the time being. It doesn't really have anything to do with Microsoft Summit, but as you can see, we can do show on card as well here. And what happens is you see I get a link to that file, and it'll allow me to open up that file directly. See if I have a somewhat harmless PDF on my hard drive. We'll just use that one. If it's a Office document, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or even a PDF in this case, and you hit Show on Card, you'll see that it looks a little bit different. You get a preview of the application as well as the link to the document. So a lot of times that can be pretty nifty as your board gets filled with tasks and you have a lot more information. This thumbnail view of the documents may be very helpful. I believe as well if you put images on here, images work the same way. If we come in here and I find a picture of something that I added and I do show on card with that image, then we get the image. So the last thing to keep in mind in our individual task pane is the comment section. This is where your team members can collaborate with one another on individual tasks. So let's say in this case, this is a task that's assigned to me, but the other people that are a member of this team can come into each of these tasks and they can add helpful information or ask questions or anything else. It's a collaborative workspace. So it has value, uh, but it does the same thing that Teams does. It keeps track of a long running thread of conversation around this particular task rather than the whole team. So the last thing to keep in mind, the last thing we're going to take a look at is the comment section. The comment section is where the team can collaborate on a specific task. So if you think about Microsoft Teams, where you have an ongoing persistent conversation about whatever the team is about or whatever the channel is about. This works in a very similar way, but in this regard, it's a kind of an ongoing, persistent conversation about a particular task. So anyone in this group can come in and look at the task, even though it's assigned to me. Other people can ask questions I can provide answers, they can provide feedback, comments, whatever. Um, and we just you just kind of type what you want to do, you hit send, and as you see, you get an ongoing thread of conversation. as well as showing who said it. So very helpful on the collaboration front. So now, one of I kind of mentioned it with files, but I want to kind of review real quick how data is stored within Planner, uh, particularly around tasks. The tasks themselves and all this metadata about the task gets stored with Planner. So that's part of the Office 365 group. It's stored with the group in a special storage area. It's what you would consider in Planner. Uh, I pointed out earlier, your attachments, though, are stored within a SharePoint site that are part of the group. That SharePoint site is associated closely with the group, but it is SharePoint. And then lastly, the comments are stored inside of, technically it's Exchange, but sometimes we just call it Outlook because Outlook is the email tool that we all use to work with Exchange. But this too is associated with the group. It's the group's inbox that keeps all this conversation information. So as you work with Planner, it may be important for you to know where your data is stored. And those are the three key places when we take a look at tasks where that data is stored at. So now we're back here at our plan, and we filled in some details for one of the tasks. I could go through and add a lot more details to all these others, but I don't think you really want to sit here and watch me fill out tasks. So instead, I want to take a look at how we manage the view of the Kanban board. And we started to look at it earlier. In the upper right, we have quite a few items that allow us to filter out the information that's here or highlight. In this case, when you highlight in the members, it highlights things that are assigned to me as opposed to other people. If we had multiple people assigned to things, you would see different highlights as you select. The filtering takes a look at it. It kind of takes away everything except those that meet the criteria of your filtering. So you can see here, I can look at those that are assigned. I can look, just the stuff that's unassigned, stuff that's assigned to me. There's a lot of different ways you can filter, and a filter does exactly what a filter is supposed to do. It takes away those that don't meet the criteria and shows only that do. Grouping is a little bit different. Grouping rearranges the view so you can see it kind of by person. So in this case, looking at it by the assigned to, we get a long column of all the stuff that's unassigned, and then the one task that I assigned to myself. As I mentioned earlier in this video, there's also the group by progress, so we can see what's in progress, completed. Uh, it supports drag and drop as well, so I can quickly complete tasks this way. I can move them around. And this is where probably most of you are familiar with Kanban boards and how a Kanban board works is the drag and drop way of doing things. Due dates work the same way. Labels, priorities. So pretty straightforward. Some of the things that you can group by, and it all supports drag and drop. Um, Giving you a lot of different ways to organize and work with your tasks on whatever project or sub project that you're working on. We also have some other views up here. When we look at the top, the three highlighted views are the Kanban board that we've been looking at. But you also have a chart view. It takes a look at, gives you some aggregated statistics on that board, the tasks, where we're at with the tasks, who's doing what, and off to the side, it kind of organizes along those bucket categories that we looked at as we group. It changes based on the group. So this chart view brings in some of the capabilities of the board view in your right hand panel and allows you to um, use your grouping and filtering to work with that. But its purpose really is to show you an aggregated view of this plan and how it's working. The schedule, it's called schedule, but Personally, I would call it calendar because it's more the calendar view that you might be accustomed to in some other software. Um, and from here, you can add your tasks and work with them, move them around to put due dates and start dates, as well as having the right hand side uh, uh, board view. I would call it. I don't even know if this probably has a formal name, but I'm going to call it the board view on the right hand side. And these are the three primary views that you can work with your plan. Your drop down menu brings in kind of some other views, but also will integrate some of the other applications. Remember, I took a moment to talk about where your data lives. This is the view. These are the views that will really highlight for you where your data lives at, because as I select each one of these, it's going to take me to the application that manages that aspect. So if I look at the conversation view, it's going to open up Outlook so that I can look at the conversation view in Outlook. If I go to take a look at the files view, it's going to open up the SharePoint site. Specifically, it's going to open up the My Documents folder in the SharePoint site, where now I can take a look at all of the attachments. And this can be very advantageous to you if you're managing the plan, or you're taking a look at the whole plan, and you from Planner, if you want to look at each of these attachments, you got to go into each task. Maybe you want to take a look, you want to see all the documentation. That's where the files view could be very helpful. You go into the My Documents folder, and now you can see every one of of the files that are attached to any of the tasks within that plan. Um, And then lastly, you have your group notebook. You have the members view that takes you to the group management tool, so you can see who else is in this group. And then sites just takes you to the top of the SharePoint site where all of your data is at. So a lot of different ways to look at it, and that those few items there is why it's important to know where your data is at, because these menu items are going to take you to those locations. So at this point, you should have a good feel for what Planner is, what you can do with it, how you can organize tasks, manage your tasks, where your data's at. So you can really, at this point, you should be able to work with a team and be able to effectively use your plan. Um, I want to step back again and come back to the very home, the default view, back to our Planner hub, and walk you through some of the high level views that are personal. So this is when you first log into Plan, you're taken to your Planner hub, and what its focus really is to show you all of the plans that you are a member of. And so as we see here, I'm a member of 3 plans in this tenant, the one that we just created, the Micro Summit, but then we have a couple of other sample plans in different groups. You'll see as I look at each one, it shows one of these plans is in a Python users group. Another plan was created a plan called My Project. So somebody created this plan and didn't create it and let it automatically create a group for them. Um, so this is everything that's directly associated with me. This is not a view of all the plans that exist in this Office 365 tenant. These are the plans that I'm a member of. One nifty feature of the Planner Hub, and I want to talk about it. If you look on the left here, you've got the recent plans look view of things and a favorites view. You also have the all plans view, which is everything. If you assign one of these plans as a favorite, it'll pop up under favorite plans. But as you can see in the Planner Hub, it gives you a chart that shows you a little bit more information about that plan. So, whereas down the bottom, I can see all the plans I've used recently or all the plans that I am a member of. But when I favorite those plans, I get a lot more information about that plan and where things are at. So probably very useful if I am the owner of the plan and I'm managing the team and trying to keep track of things. Maybe less useful if I'm just a individual contributor in this team. But from the individual contributor point of view, I can also select my tasks to give me a view of all the tasks that are assigned to me in all of my plans. So this could be a little confusing because you have to read the top here to see which plan it relates to, and understand that now I've got an individual view of all tasks that are assigned to me. And if I have a lot more than 3 plans, this could be a little bit of a cumbersome view, but it's also a very helpful view. Like the main view inside of a plan, this does support drag and drop, so I can manage the things that are assigned to me from right within here quickly without having to go through to each individual plan. But like I say, that may be helpful to you if you don't have a lot of plans and a lot of tasks. But as the number of plans that you're a member of and the number of tasks you have assigned to you grows, it this can be a little bit cumbersome. Sometimes it may be a little easier for you, a little more usable if you go into the individual plan and work your tasks from there. That's a personal preference thing. It's a matter of comfort, but get a feel for the tool, play with it, and see what you like. You might find that the My Tasks and the Planner Hub are where you spend most of your time. Me, I spend most of my time in the actual plans. So like I say, that's all personal preference. Um, and that's the Planner interface. Those are the things that you need to know to really work effectively with Planner. But I do want to take time to, as I said, show you how it integrates with some of the other um, Office 365 applications, particularly task management applications. The first one I want to show is the ToDo application. And I'm going to go through my waffle menu and I'm going to come down here and find ToDo. ToDo is very similar to Planner. It's a task management application, but it's individual task management. It's not team oriented, but it is tightly integrated so that anything that shows up in Planner shows up in my ToDo application under the planned tasks. I've got a planned task section, and you can see here it shows you what group it came from. So it's telling me what plan this task is in, and I can within the ToDo application work with that plan, manage it a little bit, and I have the option to open it in Planner from here. So if you're one of the people like me that uses ToDo for your own individual stuff, you can also use it for your Planner stuff. And those items also show up in the Assigned to Me column. So you can see I've got all 3 of these tasks that we were just looking at in Planner. I can look at in my ToDo application as well, and I can mark them as completed or work those tasks in this area as well. And then I'm going to have a future video on this application, so we're not going to dig into the things that ToDo does, but I did want to highlight for you that it does tightly integrate with Planner, and you'll see your tasks here as well. But most importantly, let's talk about Teams and show you how you can use Planner within the Teams interface, because this is probably where it's going to be most beneficial to you, where you have a team, you've created a team, you're collaborating on other things within that team. And as you can see, here's my Office 365 team that I created. Um, your team members, yours probably isn't like mine. You probably have a long thread of conversations, you have files, you have other things that you've done within your team already, and this plan is just another aspect of that team. So rather than having your team members constantly go into Planner to work with individual plans, it's usually a little easier, more beneficial to use it inside Teams. As you can see, you can add it as a tab. You just click the plus button at the top, and like everything, like a lot of other things in Teams, I could create a new plan right here from within Teams. It'll create the plan, and from there I can start working with it. But in this case, we created a plan for our Micro Summit, and as you can see, when I select use an existing plan, it does only show those plans that are associated with this Office 365 group. If I've got other plans associated with other groups, they will not show up in this dropdown. So in this case, I've only got the one. I'm going to select that one and I'm going to hit save. And what it does is it adds a tab to Teams and it opens up in the Kanban board view. And you can see when you're in the tab in Teams, it's got a lot of the same capabilities that you had in the planner interface. You have the chart view, you have the calendar or schedule view, and your Kanban board view. Um, Drag and drop works here as well. You can do all of the things that you can do inside a planner, add tasks, work on the details of tasks. What you might notice right away that it doesn't have is it doesn't have some of the other options that let you go view the files in the SharePoint site, that it doesn't let you go see the conversation. But those are all things that you can do from within Teams anyway, within the Teams interface. And so we can look at those things within Teams. So we don't really need to do it from here, but if you do need some of those other more granular functions, you can always go to the Planner application and work on it, work on those things from there. The tab view in Teams is really oriented towards managing those tasks and doing basic task management activity. We still have the option to um, group by and work with our tasks in that way. So, like I say, uh, this you will probably use quite a bit as you work with Planner and you associate those plans with Teams. You probably will use the Teams tab. Oh, maybe you'll find that you're more comfortable with that, or maybe you'll find you like the Planner interface itself. Either way, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope you get a lot out of Planner. I know I do personally, and um, you know, look forward to talking to you again. As always, like and subscribe, or better yet, share this video. Share it with all your friends.